It's Friday, and we got a loaded show for you today. First, I'll overview how I would restructure the college football playoff and the college football season overall. In segment 2, we'll look ahead to Sunday's Bearcats men's basketball game at ECU. Then, in segment 3, we're talking AFC Championship game, as we'll hear from the co-host of the Locked On Bengals podcast, James Rapien, on what he thinks is the biggest key to Sunday's game. That's all coming up on today's episode of Locked On Bearcats.
You are Locked On Bearcats, your daily podcast on the Cincinnati Bearcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you so much for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen of every day. We are free and available on all platforms. I'm Alex Frank, welcoming you to today's show. Loaded show for you today. As I mentioned at the top, I'm going to start with how I would restructure the college football playoff and really the college football season overall, because as I was going through how I would restructure the college football playoff, I was struck by how the whole season of college football needs to be restructured. Let me begin by saying this. College football is a sport where there is a whole lot of tradition, a whole lot of passion. And yet, there are some things when you look at that sport, for me at least, that make me go, what the heck? Like, why is this the way it is? So, I have a list of 5 things that I would do to restructure the college football playoff. And some of them can be applied to how I would restructure the football season entirely. So, without further ado, as I look at my notes, should have had them pulled up to the right page. Here is how I would restructure the college football playoff. First of all, here's the thing I have a problem with. The whole purpose of the college football playoff was so that there would be an undisputed champion. And it would give all Power 5 conferences a chance. There's 5 Power 5 conferences, but only 4 teams. Just 4 teams. See? 4. Not 5. 4. That make the college football playoff. Oh, so that means one Power 5 conference is guaranteed to be left out. By the way, did you know this year that just 2 Power 5 conferences made the college football playoff? 2. The SEC and the Big Ten. That's it. You know how there's a saying in sports, and CJ Uzama of the Bengals epitomized this saying this year, why not us? Every team in every sport can say that. And in most sports, that can lead to something special. We've seen it with VCU in college basketball. We've seen it with a handful of other underdog teams in sports. But we don't see it in college football. Because for most mid-major and group of 5 schools, and for some Power 5 schools, they will not have an opportunity to even sniff the possibility of playing in college football's postseason. And that's a travesty. That's an absolute travesty. So here's how to, because you look at college basketball. As I mentioned before, every one of the 353 teams going into the season has the opportunity to play for a national championship. Why? Because if you win your conference tournament, which every team in every conference, barring that you're not on probation, gets to play, and that can lead to an NCAA tournament berth, which it does if you win your conference tournament, and then who knows what happens when you get to the big dance. So, here's how to fix the college football playoff. Number 1, all 10 conference champions are in. Period. You win your conference championship, you're in. Number 2, no FCS games for any FBS teams. For all 130 FBS teams, no FCS games. So then I got to thinking, well, how would the schedule work? So then I decided, you know what? All conference games during the regular season. All conference games. Now, I know that would eliminate some marquee Labor Day weekend programming. And now that I think about it, maybe that wouldn't be a good thing. But for the sake of this, unless you want to expand the season, all conference games during the regular season, which means if you have 10 conferences and 130 teams, you would have 13 teams in each conference. That way, you play every other team in the conference once during the regular season, and if you make it to the conference championship game, you play them again. 13 teams in each conference, which means the Big 12, where Cincinnati is going, would have a 13th team. If I had to say in who I would make that 13th team, I would take Memphis. It makes sense geographically. I think Memphis is deserving of a Power 5 conference. And that would also keep the rivalry that is between Cincinnati and Memphis from a basketball perspective. Number 4, in addition to the 10 conference champions, you'd have 6 at-large teams get in. Because let's face it, if only one team from the SEC gets in, there'd be an uproar about it. Let's say Alabama gets in, but there are deserving teams like LSU and Georgia or Florida or Ole Miss or any other SEC team. Tennessee, maybe. Pipe dream, I know. But still. So there have to be 6 at-large teams. Maybe it's another group of 5 team. They could be all, Power 5 teams. But at least if you have 16 teams, 10 conference champions, 6 at-large bids, you'd have at least 5 group of 5 teams. Because you look at the NCAA tournament, fun fact, there are only 5 Power 5 conferences, right? So a lot of conference champions that make the NCAA tournament are from mid-major conferences. Yes, a lot of the at-large bids will go to Power 5 schools, that's fine. But there are more than a dozen mid-major conference teams, conference champions in the NCAA tournament. So then how would you go about the 16-team playoff? A 16-team playoff. I think that's fair. Top 4 teams, and this is very similar. This is exactly how the Big East used to do their conference tournaments when Cincinnati was in it. Top 4 teams get a double bye. Point blank in the period. 5 through 8 get a single bye. 9 through 16 play in the first round. The first 2 rounds, 9 through 16 play. The 4 winners take on 5 through 8. Those first 2 rounds would be campus site games. That could be pretty cool. That would be really cool. Okay. Can you imagine an SEC team going to a Big Ten school in December? Would they really want to do that? Would they actually make Georgia and Alabama play outdoors? That'd be something to see. That'd be something I would love to see that. So that's how I would do it. Top 4 teams double bye. 5 through 8 get a single bye. 9 through 16 campus sites. And then again with 5 through 8 in the second round. Then, here's some other things that I have issues with and how I would adjust them. The New Year's 6 would constitute the quarterfinals and semifinals because there'd be 4 quarterfinal games, 2 semifinal games. There are your 6 New Year's 6 bowls, national championship game. The other bowl games, stick them on the weekdays. Reserve the college football playoff games every one of the 5 weekends for Fridays and Saturdays. Not Sundays because the NFL's king. But other bowl games, stick them on the weekdays, Monday through Thursday. Because nobody's going to watch them, no offense to the other schools. Just going to throw that in there. I might watch them, though. Because I'm nice. Fridays and Saturdays are reserved for the playoff, period. Start the week after Champ Week. Here's one thing I have a major issue with. No other sport does this, where there's a month layoff between the conference championship and the college football playoff. What? You're taking a month off and then you have to gear back up to play one game. Notre Dame, when they played for the national championship in 2012, you ready for this? They played their final regular season game on November 24th. They didn't play again until January 7th. That's 44 days. Stop. What are we doing? Yes, the NFL goes 2 weeks between conference championship games and the Super Bowl. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But 44 days? Between 2 games? It doesn't make any sense. Like, what are we doing? For a sport that's so that's seeped rich in tradition and passion, we can't get its postseason to be, somewhat all-inclusive, somewhat, sensible in terms of logistics of, scheduling and time off. Come on. Start the week after Champ Week, this new college football playoff. You have the Heisman Trophy presentation the Saturday before the national championship. You want to keep the national championship on a Monday night? I'm all for that. That's fine. We need a football game on a Monday after Monday Night Football ends anyway. So that is how I would fix the college football playoff. And in essence, restructure the college football season. Up next, a game on Sunday that the Bearcats really need to win. I'll hit on that for a few minutes at East Carolina. It's a big game it's a game they really need to win both in terms of the big picture of the journey to the tourney and not letting Tuesday's loss linger any more than it did in the immediate aftermath of the loss on Tuesday at Temple. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Bearcats, but first, I got to tell you about an incredible app everyone who buys gas needs to know about. It's called Get Upside. My listeners are earning cash back for every gallon of gas every time they fill up, and you can just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now using promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first fill up. Cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app for free and use promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 to $300 a year in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash back gets added right to your account. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code SCORE to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. That's code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. And once again, thank you for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen of every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Alex Frank here with you on this Friday, January 28th of 2022. Hard to believe it's already January 28th. What are we doing? Anyway, there is a game on Sunday that I think is a really important game. It's the Bearcats and it's ECU. And it's a game the Bearcats really need to win. There are some things I want to see from the Bearcats on Sunday. It's a noon game. It's on ESPNU. You can also hear the game live locally on 700 WLW. Mo Eggers filling in for Dan Horde for good reason, which we'll get to that in segment 3. But this is a game the Bearcats really need to win. And like I said, there are some things that I want to see from this team. Number one, just a total 180 from Tuesday. The Bearcats can't have happen what happened on Tuesday. Very many more times throughout the season. In fact, I don't think it can happen again. You can't shoot whatever it was from the field on Tuesday in the second half. I don't remember the exact numbers, but they were abysmal. I think it was like 5. It was 5 of 29. That's what it was. 5 for 29. Was it 5 for 29? Might have been 6. Still terrible. I mean, just terrible. You're up 12 on the road, which in itself is great, but you can't blow that lead. I don't care if it's on the road or not. The Bearcats, I believe, are a better team than Temple. Temple just played the best. You can't deny that. So just a total 180 in terms of making shots, in terms of just better offensive execution. I think that's what happened on Tuesday. The Bearcats just did not have good offensive execution. Number 2, don't let Tuesday linger into the first half of Sunday. How many times do you hear commentators talk about in sports, don't let the last game beat you? Don't let the last game beat you twice is what I should say. The Bearcats can't come out flat. Look, Tuesday's loss is a tough loss, but it's not like they lost to an ECU team 3 years ago like they did. Whew, that was bad. I still remember that game. Hoping that doesn't happen again this time around. But the way I look at this game is you can't let what happened Tuesday carry over into Sunday. Come out, be assertive, be aggressive, because East Carolina is going to score. They are a good offensive team. You look at some of their numbers, they have 3 double-digit scorers, 3 scorers averaging double figures. They shoot the ball really well. The one thing they don't do is they don't play defense. So while they do score and shoot well, they let their opponents do the same thing. At the time of this recording, which was Thursday night, you listening to this morning know maybe the result of the ECU Memphis game Thursday night. ECU came into that game 11-7, 2-4 in AAC play. Since losing to Cincinnati on January 12th, they won against Memphis at home, 72-71. Brandon Suggs at a game-winning jumper as time expired. They lost to UCF at home, 92-85 in overtime. And then, my gosh, I don't know if you've seen the box score from ECU's 79-36 loss at Houston last Saturday. It's worse than the score is. It's worse than the score is. It's bad. I mean, it's really bad. I think they were 8 for 50 from the field the entire game. I'm not kidding. 8 for 50. And I might be generous. I don't remember the exact numbers on me. But it was bad. I'll confirm that. I'll confirm that in between segments. So, but Houston's really good. They're in the top 10. There's no shame in losing to Houston, especially on the road, just the way they lost. He was not good. 3 assists to 13 turnovers. That much I do know. In terms of the box score from that game, I'll confirm it right now, just because I'm curious. East Carolina was 8 for 50. 8 for 50 from the field. No one had a good game for them. No one did. They were out-rebounded by 16. Houston shot 47.6% from the floor. ECU shot 16%. I've never seen a team have that bad of a game. Like, it was bad. Still, ECU's going to come ready. They have played the Bearcats tough over the years. Tristan Newton, you know he's going to show up. He's averaging around 18 points a game. He is what Jaden Gardner was to that team the last 2 years. Vance Jackson had 35 points against the Bearcats the last time. Tremont Robinson-White. Vance Jackson had 35 points in that game back on January 12th. Is he going to do it again? I hope not. Number 3, plain and simple, make shots. If you're David DeJulius, if you're Jeremiah Davenport, if you're Mason Madsen, if you're Micah Adams-Woods, make shots. Be efficient. I think the Bearcats are going to get back on track in this game. They need to, because the 2 games next week, which we're going to hit on a lot, Memphis and Houston, which could make or break the season. Yeah, this is a game you need to bank. I think the Bearcats will win. I think they complete the season sweep of East Carolina. They win 80-72. 80-72. That game is on Sunday at noon. You can watch it on ESPNU. You can hear the game live locally on 700. Actually, I don't think it. Why did I say 700 WLW? It's not on 700 WLW. I just realized. I will confirm what channel that game is on for you in between segments as well. If I had to guess, I'd say Fox Sports 1360 or 55 KRC. Now, why is it not on 700? Well, that's because up next, I am still trying to wrap my head around this. The fact that the Cincinnati Bengals, my favorite NFL team, is playing in the AFC Championship game. They're heading to Kansas City. They're going to try and take down Patrick Mahomes and the 2-time reigning AFC champion Chiefs. We'll hear from James Rapien from Locked On Bengals on what he thinks is the biggest key to the game. And I'll tell you the only way, it does say the game is on 700 WLW. How about that? That might change, though. The website, gobearcats.com, says it's on 700 WOW. That might change, though. I think it will. James will tell you what he thinks is the biggest key to the game. I'll tell you what I think the Chiefs need to do, and the only way they can slow down the Bengals. All of that is next here on Locked On Bearcats. But first, I got to tell you about Built Bar because it's the new year, and that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure to include Built Bar in your plan. You want to eat healthy, but it just gets so boring by like week 3. You might be thinking, all right, Alex, this is just not worth it. Where's the chocolate? And I'm here to tell you that Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. But here's the catch. They only contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and net carbs each, but they contain 17 grams of protein. So compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Built Bars are way better. So even if you're not a huge fan of working out, you can at least eat something that tastes good and is good for you. That way, when you enjoy a delicious Built Bar, you can almost count it as a workout. Maybe eat one during the Bengals game. Get yourself ready as a fan. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Once again, thank you for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen of every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Alex Frank here with you. Sunday. It's a very big day in this city of Cincinnati. See, this is a Bearcats podcast, but this is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and we are all friends. Everyone that has a podcast associated with this network, college, NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, we're all friends. We're all one network. So, we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about the Bengals here. I've talked about the Bengals before on this podcast, but I haven't devoted a whole segment to the Bengals yet. That changes in this segment. And for more on Sunday's biggest Bengals key to the AFC Championship game. God, I still can't believe it's the AFC Championship game. Let's turn to the co-host of Locked On Bengals and someone who's a good friend of mine, James Rapien. James?
The Bengals take down the Chiefs on Sunday in Kansas City and advance to the Super Bowl. Hi again, everyone. I'm James Rapien of the Locked On Bengals podcast, and that is the question going into this epic AFC Championship game between two teams that played each other this month. They played each other on January 2nd at Paul Brown Stadium. The Bengals came out victorious 34-31, overcoming 3 different 14-point deficits. I expect Sunday to be a different story. The Bengals can't fall behind against this Chiefs team by 2 scores and expect a rally on the road. But the number one key, protect Joe Burrow. Burrow was sacked 9 times last week against the Titans. He was hit 13 times. And yeah, the offense had 19 points. Well, 19 points isn't going to cut it against Patrick Mahomes. The magic number, 40. If they can somehow get to 40, you feel good about their chances. How do they do that? They keep Joe Burrow upright. If they do that, he can distribute the ball to all of his weapons, including Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. And the Bengals just might sneak in to the Super Bowl. For more, make sure you check out the free and the only daily Bengals podcast, Locked On Bengals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
All right, James, thank you. Always great hearing from you. You can also hear James Rapien live occasionally on ESPN 1530 and 700 WLW. A lot of great points he mentioned there. The first is this, and this is the key to every Bengals game. It's been the key to every Bengals game this season, and it will be for the foreseeable future until they get the offensive line resolved. That is protect the franchise. Point blank in the period. Joe Burrow was sacked 51 times in 16 games during the regular season. Did you happen to see he was sacked 9 times on Saturday in Nashville against the Tennessee Titans? Now, I know Tennessee has a great pass rush. I mean, they really do. But 9 sacks. That can't happen against the Chiefs. Chris Jones, Jaron Reed, Melvin Ingram, they're probably licking their chops as we speak. In addition to licking their chops on delicious Kansas City barbecue. That is the biggest key to the game. James said it. I agree with him. The offensive line of the Bengals must protect Joe Burrow. Because A, he can't get sacked, which puts him in danger of getting hurt, which already happened last year. And B, because the Bengals have an offense that can compete with Kansas City. We saw it 4 weeks ago. The Bengals beat the Chiefs 4 weeks ago. Joe Burrow proved in that game he is as good as any quarterback in the NFL. The Bengals proved in that game that they can beat anybody, and they have done so since. The Bengals can beat teams like Kansas City who are finesse, fancy, the sports car of NFL teams. But they can also beat the SUVs of the NFL teams, teams that like to play physical, teams that like to run the football, teams that make you grind out victories. That's the Tennessee Titans. The Bengals beat them last Saturday, 19-16. The Bengals can beat any team in the league, especially when they keep Joe Burrow upright. But Joe Burrow is one of the toughest players in the NFL to me. Because he has said throughout his career, and I thought this was, and I questioned this at first. When he said last year that he likes getting hit, what quarterback likes getting hit? But he truly thrives off of it. If you get Joe Burrow going, look out. Joe Burrow will feed off of any doubt, any hit, anything that goes against him. He thrives in adversity. Ever since the Bears game in week 2, where he threw 3 interceptions, and outside of maybe a smattering of other misplays, the interception against Green Bay on the first play of overtime, the interception late in the fourth quarter against the Jets, he's been great in late game situations. I mean, he led a game-winning drive against Jacksonville. He should have led a game-winning drive against Green Bay after the interception on the first play of overtime. San Francisco, he did until the Niners won in overtime. He led a game-winning drive against the Chiefs, and he did it again against Tennessee. So he's led 3 this season. 1 to win the division, and another in the playoffs. He's every reason why the Bengals drafted him number 1 overall. And it helps when you have an elite receiving core. I believe the Bengals receiving core is the best in the NFL. I truly believe that. Jamar Chase, who has made that 5th overall pick in the draft worth everything. His performance against the Chiefs is legendary. That 3rd and 27 catch is in Bengals lore. What you may not remember on that play, though, was this. Joe Burrow was under pressure in that game, on that play. There was pressure on that play. And I know Joe Burrow thrives off of pressure. I know he thrives off of getting hit. But if you keep him upright, just imagine what he's going to be able to do. Imagine what Joe Mixon's going to be able to do. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing that. But in this game, they need to keep Joe Burrow upright. Because Chris Jones, Jaron Reed, Melvin Ingram, they're coming after him. And in a stadium that is going to be significantly louder than Tennessee. And what that means is you better be able to know when the ball is getting snapped. Because you have to look at the ball and then you have to look back at the player coming at you on the defensive line. It's not easy. I mean, nonverbal communication is going to be paramount in this game. I heard someone mention it on the Bengals Booth podcast with Dan Horde recently. Nonverbal communication. I think it might have been Dave Lapham who said that. Anyway, receiving core is the best in this league. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, as James mentioned. Jamar Chase had 3 touchdowns in that game. The other touchdown that Joe Burrow threw in that game went to Tyler Boyd. By the way, Joe Burrow. And I think as this season has gone on, ever since the fourth quarter and the beginning of overtime in the San Francisco game, there's something about him. Really, it started against the Ravens in Week 16. There's something to him. There is a swagger, there is a confidence, and there is a belief that he casts off to the entire team. That they're going to win every game that they play in. Look at Joe Burrow's 2019, in every postseason game or marquee game. Go back to the Alabama game 2019. Here are the numbers from that game and postseason games he's played in. Alabama in 2019, at Alabama, by the way. 31 of 39, 393, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Georgia in the SEC Championship. 28 of 38, 349, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He also added 11 rushes for 41 yards in the Georgia game and 14 rushes for 64 yards in the Alabama game, if that means anything to you. Against Oklahoma, 29 of 39 for 493 and 7 touchdowns. Clemson in the national championship, 31 of 49, 463, 5 touchdowns, no picks. All right? Not impressed? Let's go to 2021. Against the Ravens, week 16, 37 of 46, 525, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Against the Chiefs, 30 of 39, 446, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Playoff games. First playoff game, no pressure, 24 of 34, 244, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Against Tennessee, 28 of 37, 348, no touchdowns, did throw a pick, not his fault. And the key stat, he's won all of those games. So if you're doubting or if you're concerned that the Bengals are going to get run off the field by the Chiefs, why are you? Because the Chiefs are really good? Okay, that's fine. The Chiefs are a very good team. Like, they've scored 42 points in each of their first 2 playoff games. And apparently Patrick Mahomes only needs 13 seconds to lead a game-tying field goal drive. That's ridiculous. I mean, that is absurd. I thought it was absurd that Aaron Rodgers only needed 37 seconds with no timeouts. Patrick Mahomes needs 13. I mean, how do you... What can't that guy do? Apparently beat the Bengals with Joe Burrow. He's 0-1 against Joe Burrow. And that's why I think the Bengals can win this game. Because they have Joe Burrow. I didn't think the Bengals were going to beat Tennessee, but turns out I was wrong because Joe Burrow kept getting back up and delivering throws. The throw to Jamar Chase to set up the game-winning drive, great throw. You got to place that ball perfectly on an out route to the sidelines. So, my keys to the game, obviously protect the franchise. James and I are in lockstep on that. Number 2, you got to throw the first punch. You can't, as James said, fall behind 14-0. It worked at home. It's not going to work on the road. Guarantee you that at Arrowhead. You can't allow any big plays to the Chiefs. The Chiefs did not really have any back-breaking plays. They almost did twice at the end of the first half. You might remember they almost had a kickoff return for a touchdown. It was called back because of a hold. And Tyreek Hill almost had a 60-plus yard reception except Von Bell ripped it out of his hands at the last second. If those 2 plays work, the Chiefs maybe run away with that game. Instead, the Bengals were able to keep the game close going into halftime. They came out, won the game in the second half. Number 4, be aggressive. The Bengals were very aggressive in that first game. They went for it twice on 4th and goal late in the game. Why? Because they knew not to give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes. Zach Taylor all of a sudden looks like a genius for doing that. Number 5, pressure Patrick Mahomes. Make him run for his life. You saw what the Buccaneers did in the Super Bowl last year. And with Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard, and maybe apply some interior pressure with DJ Reader and BJ Hill, and maybe use Cam Sample and Khalid Kareem to keep Hendrickson and Hubbard fresh, do that. You pressure Patrick Mahomes, you make him run. It's not going to make it any easier. He's going to have to use some otherworldly arm angles to throw the ball, which I guess he can still do. Anyway, I know the Chiefs have scored 42 points in each of their first 2 postseason games. But damn it, Joe Burrow is really confident right now. The Bengals aren't going to get run off the field. And I just think the Chiefs might still be a little weary from that game against Buffalo. The Bengals are more rested than the Chiefs, if you think about it. They are more rested than the Chiefs. They didn't play their starters in Week 18. The Chiefs did. The Bengals also played Saturday afternoon. They've had an extra day of rest. They didn't have a long road trip back home to Cincinnati. And that's why I think they're more rested, and I think they are going to win this game. I think the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. They're going to win 31-28. And for purposes, I'll say McPherson wins it from 46 yards at the gun. How about that? We could be talking about the Bengals in the Super Bowl come Monday. That's going to do it for us today and this week here on Locked On Bearcats. Plenty to get to next week. Plenty. We'll recap the Bearcats game at ECU on Monday. Thursday and Friday of next week, that'll be devoted to the Bearcats' 2 games next week. They are crucial games. Home against Memphis on Thursday night and home against Houston Sunday night. Whew, that's going to be make or break for the NCAA tournament hopes of the Bearcats. We'll look back at the AFC Championship game, just maybe talk about the Bengals going to the Super Bowl. I still can't believe that actually might be happening. As always, you can follow me on Twitter, as you see on your screen at Frankie_Natty. You can also follow me on Instagram, AlexFrank9_, and email me at alex3frank@gmail.com. Thank you again for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen of every day. Now stay tuned to make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your sports gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Hope everybody enjoys the conference championship games on Sunday. The NFC Championship follows the AFC, the Niners at the Rams. That could be a really good game, too. I'm going to pick the Niners in that game. So, Bengals-Niners in the Super Bowl for the third time. See how anxious the city gets over that. That's going to be something. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay warm. It's going to be cold this weekend. Until we talk to you next time on Monday, I'm Alex Frank signing off until Monday morning, where we will talk to you all then.